Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researchers Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Neelabja Chatterjee with us. A brief introduction of Dr. Neelabja. He has done his bachelor's in mathematics from Ramakrishna Mission Vidya Mandir, West Bengal. And for master's, he attended TIFR Bengaluru, where he pursued his master's in math in Center for Applicable Mathematics. For PhD, he moved to Norway and attended University of Oslo. For postdoc, he attended Technical University of Darmstadt, Germany, and then moved back to India, joined Vellore Institute of Technology, Vellore, as an assistant professor, and currently is assistant professor in Northeastern Regional Institute of Science and Technology, also called as NERIST. With this brief introduction, I would say thank you so much, Dr. Nilabja, for taking time out for this conversation.
You are very welcome, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share or, let's say, clarify any question that you may have. Yeah.
Okay. We always talk in these conversations the basic question that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
Oh, okay. I mean, when part, I'm not very sure. Firstly, I mean, it has to be an honest confession. I'm not very sure when did I really decide to be a researcher, but I can enlighten on the how part more rigorously. So, I mean, first question is how you will decide your subject, like why mathematics? And for me, I think that was mostly elimination. So I didn't like chemistry because it was too much technical for me. So I liked physics and mathematics, and out of physics and mathematics, it was more mathematics for me because I loved the proofs of mathematics, whereas physics is more intuition driven, and then there is not so rigorous proof as much I would have expected for. Whereas mathematics is 100% rigorous. It's brilliant. So that's how I chose math. And while I chose math when pursuing my bachelor's, I felt that analysis is my actual call. So in India, if you prefer analysis, the best places are either TIFR or IISc, without disrespecting any of the ISRs. I mean, I'm talking about the time of 2010, 2013. So that time, some of the ISRs were like coming up, so they were not in the mainframe picture very much. So for us, it was mostly like TIFR versus IISc thing. Getting into the TIFR, well, that was a tricky thing. And getting into there, I decided, okay, I mean, PD is a good thing. I think while I'm giving you the answer, in retrospect, I think it was the TIFR days that kind of convinced me that, okay, I can be a researcher in mathematics. Yeah. So in time scale, it is 2014, 2015.
Okay. So when you were doing your master's at TIFR, that is the time when you realize that this is something you want to do as a career, like taking research your next step. So
Yes.
let's start with the first foundational points, like during your master's, what were the universities you were considering, or what was the thought process that now joining for PhD? How did that start?
Okay. Well, I mean, it was more of a effort and luck combined kind of thing, because TIFR Bangalore, TIFR Center for Applicable Mathematics, it offers, and it used to offer back in my time, a course called Integrated PhD. Okay, so it was essentially a 2+1+3 kind of setup. So in first 2 years, you have 4 semesters of master study. In the third year, upon qualification of the first 2 year, if you are accepted by the faculty, so I mean, the rule was kind of non-linear. So you have the 4 semester thing, 4 semester MSc. At the end of third semester, you start approaching faculties based on your preference, right? And then they will say, okay, yes or no for the third year thing. So once someone gets an acceptance, he or she may continue the third year there. it was more like a pre-PhD coursework kind of thing. Some people used to call it MPhil, but I don't know. I think the MPhil degree was not awarded. So after this third year, you have this comprehensive viva kind of thing where you have to present what you have done in the third year. Upon qualification of that, you will go for PhD. So that was the route. And I also thought like that because I like Bangalore, I like TIFR Bangalore. I was very much well settled. During my third year studies, there was a position at University of Oslo under Professor Nils Henrik Risebro, my PhD's principal supervisor. And the topic was kind of close enough to what I used to do in my the third year days. So my topic was essentially conservation law. So there is a particular class of PD named as conservation law. So I was doing stochastic conservation law and associated numerical methods. Now, so there was this relation between third year problem with the PhD guide. And my third year mentor that time, Professor Ujjwal Kole and Professor Imran Habib Bishwas, they said that, do you want to try your luck by applying for a foreign PhD? And I didn't have any constraint. I was like, okay, why not? I mean, it will be just visiting one more country where you will study. And they say, no, 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 there the rules are different. It is very strict. You have to be really cautious about finishing stuff within 3-year deadline. There is the visa issue. There is temperature issue because Norway is very cold. So if you are okay with it, you can try your luck. And I said, okay, fine. I mean, and then fortunately, I got the chance.
So you were well aware of all these challenges before moving to Norway.
Yes, I was aware. And fortunately I didn't have any back I didn't have any, yeah, I didn't have any predetermined constraint in my back,
Mm-hmm.
which will, because I know some of the students, they hate to move farther from their hometown due to different reasons, but they
Absolutely.
have their own reason. Fortunately I didn't have any of that.
Mhm.
So
So
it was
let's
a very
talk about when you did the application, you got the approval. Now, starting from the approval to landing in there, based on your experience, now, if you have to share with our audience that how they should prepare themselves whenever they are moving to a different country with all the challenges as you mentioned.
well. Okay, so information wise, I think we are every 10 years kind of a big leap in the information sector. So nowadays you have way more information available to you than it was in 2015, 2016. um, what you should do if you are moving abroad, what you should do first, you should know what are the things not to be done in that country.
Mhm.
Definitely there's absolutely no, because every country, love it or hate it, every country has their own stereotype. And these are stereotypes for a reason. Now, let's say, in India, if you expect that maybe after 9:30 everything will be quiet, your surrounding will be quiet. Let's say you are an European coming from Western European, some developed country, and you are expecting that India will be silent after maybe 9:30 or around 10, then you are living in a fool's paradise. On the other hand, if you are moving from India to, let's say, developed Western European country, and you are expecting the same amount of cacophony that you are used to back in India, then it's a big no-no. So what you should do, I believe, that you should be well accustomed with the things not to be done in the other country. um, Maybe Google a bit about local culture. If you are a foodie, Google a bit about what kind of local foods are available. And these are the superficial stuff. What are the technical stuffs that you need to know? What are the things to be done post your arrival? Because every foreign university usually have an international students department, or like helpline for them. It's a dedicated cell. and you have to register yourself there. So there are a lot of registration process. If you are an Indian and you are moving abroad, especially to Europe, you have to register at the local level. So at the municipality level, there should be some sort of office. So you have to register there. You have to make sure that you have all the documents for opening a bank account. First of all, what are the documents to open a bank account? Usually it depends on the registration documents. Okay, so first registration, then bank account. And before making this move, you should have some amount of either cash in the local currency, or you should have a travel card or something where you can convert your INR to that local currency. um, things can be tricky in that sense, because if you don't have sufficient information about when you will receive your first salary, then this amount should be helpful. Okay, so that's one thing. So what you need to Google also, you should Google about what is the cost of living there. Okay, and while googling this cost of so this exercise I did, while googling about this cost of living thing, you should get a min to max, and your value should be somewhere in the middle. It should not be mean, I mean, you should not consider the mean, because mean is like bare minimum surviving, maximum is like you are living very frugally. So your lifestyle should be somewhere in the middle, ideally. In Europe, for instance, public transport is a big thing, whereas in US you don't have that much public transport. So if you are going to Europe, you probably you can check a bit about the ticketing, like what are the long term ticketing plan, if there is any, what are the procedure, what are the documents you should have. So these are the things I believe you should keep in mind. So first of all, collect sufficient amount of cash or arrange the money via card. Number two, upon arrival, do the registration as early as possible after connecting with the international students cell of your university or your employer. Then once the registration part is done, go for the bank account thing. Now here it depends whether you are a student or an employee, because if it is employees, things are much easier. Student, for the students it takes a little time because number of students are more, right? Of course you have to make sure about your accommodation, because finding accommodation in the abroad is not easy as in India. I mean, in India it is difficult, I agree. In Europe it is far more difficult, because every accommodation, getting an accommodation is essentially getting through an interview. There will be one date, one appointment where 10 people will come to visit the house owner or whoever is sharing the thing. They will basically talk with everyone and decide based on something. So question is whether your university or employee is providing anything, or you have to look it for your own. Usually if you are going for PhD, for the first one semester or some fixed amount of time, your university or employee is going to provide an accommodation, and then you have to look for your own. But if you are going to be a student, I think you will be living in a dormitory, so you have to get in touch with this international student section. And most importantly, if you are moving to Europe, start learning language. So if you are moving to France, as a prerequisite, you have to know French. If you're moving to Germany, it's ideal that you should have maybe a B1, B2 level of German. Okay, why these are necessary? If you are a PhD student, it's not that much until and unless you are busy in, or you are involved in teaching responsibility. But if you are a student, mostly what students do, they have a, let's say, hustling job. Okay, so they earn some money as a maybe waiter, as a newspaper distributor, as a whatever small errand job. Okay, for which you have the hourly basis pay, and usually the local language is helpful in that sense. So if you're moving to Europe, learn some language.
Absolutely. And I think you have explained all these pre arrival and post arrival things well in detail. That is
Mhm.
very important for all who are considering their next move outside India, happening to be Europe. Is exactly, you can follow what Dr. Nilabja just mentioned. Now let's talk about the academics. You have experienced one of the best cultures in India at TIFR and then moving to Oslo. How challenging was that in terms of the academia?
Um, well, I mean, from TIFR to Oslo, it's I would say it's not huge difference, because fortunately for me, well, there are a couple of difference actually, if you think in detail. So first thing was that in India there is this hierarchy system. So, well, I would say unfortunately, but students in India treat the faculties or the PhD guides or the supervisors as some sort of very superior, very powerful, almighty, next to God kind of thing. Whereas in Oslo, it was a flat hierarchy. So you have to, I mean, it's customary that you should call your colleague with their first name. That's it. So my principal supervisor was Professor Nils Henrik Risebro, who is a brilliant mathematician, legendary researcher. But on the first day, he said, "Please call me Nils." I mean, in the mails, in the first few mails I was writing "respected Professor Risebro" and so on and so forth, and he said, "No, this is too much. I mean, hi Nils is good enough. Come back to the main topic. We have to focus on the main topic." So that's one thing. Whereas in TIFR, you didn't have that much hierarchy like in the outside world in India, but there was still a little bit of hierarchy, a little bit of fear around, let's say, the student and the teacher. I mean, there is a slight difference, not like outside India, but I mean, not like outside TIF or within India, but there was a hierarchy. I mean, you can sense it. Whereas in Oslo, it was not. The flip side of it, in India, the guide has some sort of power, and the guide has some sort of responsibility also. Meaning, to guide to navigate the student through the perils of, let's say, unknown research, or to maybe make sure that this PhD student is going to get is going to land a nice employment opportunity to some extent, the guide play a bit of crucial role in India. So there is a little bit of spoon feeding thing happening also. Whereas in Europe, most likely you will be on your own, in the sense, most likely you will have to form your own problem statement. Most likely you will have to attack the problem statement all by yourself, and most likely you have to come up with the result. What your PhD supervisor or other faculty members they will do, they will help you, they will probably guide you, but definitely never expect spoon feeding, at least in Europe. I don't know about US, I can't comment because I have not done my PhD in US. But what I heard from my friends, I think the picture is kind of similar. So that's the thing, that with great power comes great responsibility. In outside India, PhD students, they have kind of great power, but proportionately they have great responsibility towards their own research. Whereas in India, it's a bit, let's say, topsy-turvy. Okay, so that's one difference. The other difference was, yeah, so India versus foreign, one of the crucial differences in foreign, at least in Norway, in Germany, nobody really cares how much hour you are clocking in your office. Point is, you have to get the job done. It really doesn't matter where are you working from. At least in Norway was super free on that part. I mean, usually people used to come at the office at 9:30 and they will leave by 3. So this is a very crucial thing. And there were some people who used to stay late. There were some people who didn't come office at all. Maybe back to back 3-4 days in an office, they are staying in the office. So it was very free in that sense. Whereas in India, there is a tendency of how much hour you have spent in the office. Are you spending really the office time in the office hour? I mean, there is no point. The thing is, you have to make your time productive. How you are doing, where are you doing this, where are you achieving this, these things are not so much concern for your superiors in the foreign. Whereas in India, I think still it is a big issue.
Indeed. Yeah. That's also a good perspective to prepare yourself for all these challenges, because the well preparedness of yours decides that how comfortable you will be within the first week or month or so. Then let's take the time for the real fun when they say, yeah.
Just a moment, sorry to interrupt. I mean, suddenly something came to my
Mhm.
mind, and it will be a grave sin if I don't communicate this to the, let's say, interested people. The huge difference between developed world versus developing world, I mean, without naming the names, maybe Norway, Germany versus India, is punctuality.
Mhm.
If you are committing that, I mean, we have the same thing, right? Our conversation was actually slated for 7 p.m., and then I knew that there was a program which will overshoot the timing. So I had a pre-scheduled meeting which was supposed to end at 6 p.m. Now then I realized that, I mean, first of all, okay, so here is the thing also. If you are scheduling a meeting, schedule it well ahead. So for instance, that's for foreign. I mean, in India usually meetings are scheduled in like this notice, so people get 2-3 days notice that there is a meeting. No, meetings don't happen like that. Meeting means bunch of people are coming, being prepared with the ideas, being prepared with the counter arguments, being prepared with what they offer on the table. Meet for as minimum time as possible and get job done. So there should be a proper, I mean, in Europe, in Norway and in Germany, there is a proper heads up that, okay, this much time you are having for the meeting, we are going to meet on this day, so on and so forth. And then that's one thing. Punctuality, meaning if you are committing that you are going to have a meeting at x p.m. or x a.m., you should stick to it. No
Mhm.
matter what happens, it should not change. If there is any change, please communicate effectively.
Yes. Having this
So
conversation actually is very important, and we always talk about this punctuality, and also having this clear conversation with your supervisor, which should be the first conversation whenever you're talking. The clear expectations from each other,
yeah,
how well you put this on paper or in verbal communication, because as you mentioned, this is one of the challenge which people do face when within India, within the same country, within different countries, and even when it gets even more challenging when you do not look at the time difference, because there have been incidences where people either miss those and they have never prepared themselves well enough, or
yeah,
sometimes, as you mentioned, that if you are not well prepared enough for the meeting, the agenda might not be solved in that same meeting, and then
exactly.
the work which could have been done within 30 minutes could have can take at least hours or so. So you are saving your time as well as your supervisors or collaborators time if you are prepared for what is expected from you and how well prepared you are for that.
That's correct.
Moving to the next step, when people say that PhD was a roller coaster ride, how was that for
Yeah.
you in Norway?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Because again, I mean, as I said, in abroad, your PhD is kind of tied with your visa also. So there is extra pressure on that front. Now, again, I can't vouch for US, for instance. I don't know what kind of visa they offer regarding PhD thing, because in Norway, in Norway, PhD is an employment. So when you are getting the salary, you are essentially paying tax. So you are an employee. So you are getting your work visa. And work visa is for 3 years. D visa, it is for 3 years. At least it was. I mean, I don't know the current scenario. Anyway, so when you are joining PhD, at least it was for me. Initially, it was like very, very rosy in the sense that you expect way more than actually you can do, probably. And that's fine. I guess that's fine. Every PhD aspirant should go through this phase. There is no harm. So essentially, what I'm trying to say, you have a problem in your mind which is probably utterly impossible to solve in a given time frame, or at least in the PhD time frame. But it is actually a very nice problem, and you in the first week of the PhD, you convince yourself that I'm going to solve it. Probably I'm going to be awarded the Fields Medal or Nobel, depending on your branch. So something groundbreaking is going to happen, and sooner or later you figure it out that, okay, I mean, this is not a very, let's say, new question. Probably this is a very old question. Probably some great people already tried and failed. Probably I'm not getting there. These things can happen. So there will be setbacks. There will be setbacks in a regular interval, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine to have a setback. That being said, no one should stop asking nice question. No one should stop dreaming big, because who knows? I mean, maybe out of 1,000 big dreams, there will be 2, 5, 10 genuine big dreams which are converted into reality. So you have to continue dreaming, whereas you have to be ready for setbacks. And the most painful thing is, so this will go on maybe the first 3 semesters or 1 year, 1.5 year. In the meantime, you have to probably pass your coursework. You have to give exams on the coursework. You have to pass it. Probably you will pass it. In the meantime, your research is happening. Probably you have write out a great, I mean, you have obtained a great result, and then the editing will start with your supervisor. So some portion he's not liking, he or she is not liking, some portion you probably are liking, and so this will go round and round. Finally, when you submit the paper, so two things can happen. Either it will take, I mean, usually good journals, in my experience, they usually take almost around minimum 8 months to 1 year to like get accepted or rejected, something like this. So rejection is fine. You have submitted a publication which you believe it's a very novel result, which is a new addition to knowledge, addition to the knowledge of the scientific community. uh, but still this paper can get rejected. So you have to, again, you have to be prepared for the setbacks continuously, and managing setbacks, still keeping your head held high. So that's the part I think PhD life teaches you the most.
Absolutely. Having that training of how to cope up with the stress which comes
Yeah.
with rejections or missing deadlines, as you clearly mentioned about keeping those timelines realistic, is one more important thing. Is important that the research question, as mentioned by Dr. Nilabja, research question you have asked might be one of the wonderful problems to work with, but then keeping that timeline, if it is bound, like you have to accomplish your PhD or complete your PhD within 3 years, you have, that is one thing which you have to also consider whenever you are making or designing your research questions. So next, moving from PhD to postdoc, so from Norway to Germany and then Germany to India, what were the things which decided, like what were the deciding factors or the path you have taken?
uh, okay, I mean, from PhD to postdoc, it was more like, the difference between PhD and postdoc is, in PhD somehow you have how to say, somehow you have a cushion in the sense there is a supervisor. You are under someone's wing, whereas postdoc is roughly speaking doing a PhD or attempting a PhD, but you are not really under someone's wing. It is more like you are flying with someone else. So that's the difference between PhD and postdoc, in my opinion. Nobody is under anybody's wing. Rather, you are making the flight together. Um, so what happened with me, my, again, as I said, my research topic was numerical methods for conservation laws, hyperbolic class of PDs. So I was looking for numerical methods, but not really conservation law, maybe. So I was looking for, again, I tried to work on numerical methods, but with different numerical methods and different class of problems. So that was the idea. So what you should do, I mean, so there are two philosophical direction people can take. One is you enlarge your area. So you have worked in PhD in a particular set of area. Now what you can do in postdoc, you can enlarge that area with maybe new method, with maybe new topic under consideration. Or what you can do, you can switch the field just by a bit. So for instance, I know people who have done their PhD in numerical methods of PD, but have done their postdoc in more of a hardcore computer science driven machine learning, which, so they could have chosen machine learning principle for PD, which would enlarge the idea of numerical methods for PD. They could have done it for machine learning for PD, but what they did, they actually ended up doing postdoc in machine learning for computer science from the computer science purpose. So these are the two approach that you could have done. Now in my case, I was in numerical methods for conservation law, and I tried to enlarge it. So I checked like who are the good mathematicians in and around Europe, maybe who are doing research in that field. And the reason I chose Europe, because I liked Europe. I mean, honestly, there is no thing. I don't like US that much. I mean, I spent time in US for very not so large period, but for me, US was like rich man's India, maybe. So I didn't like US that much. So I wanted to stay in Europe, and I looked like who are the people working in broadly these areas in Europe, and I started applying for a postdoc position with them. I had a lot of interviews, lot of rejection. Again, same thing. I mean, there will be lot of rejection. Only one successful acceptance mail is good enough. So that was the scenario. I mean, if you are getting more acceptance mail, great. So for instance, I had, I think, 3 or 4 rejection, one acceptance, or 2 acceptance kind of thing. So that was the status. Um, so after doing the postdoc, coming back to India, I mean, that was the, again, family. Now I have the family constraint because I am a single child. So I had to take care of my parents to be kind of nearer to them, although it may or may not be that much decisive factor nowadays, because I am hoping with time flies, communication system will improve, and like connecting one point of India to another point of India will be almost equivalent to connecting one point in India with connecting one point in Europe. Needless to say, there is the thing that where do you want to end up? Do you
Hmm.
want to be a foreign citizen versus
Mhm.
do you want to live in India? So that's one of the question that you have to address for yourself. And for me, it was like I have to live in my own land. Okay, I don't want to be a foreign citizen. So yeah, why not look for a job in India? And that's how I ended up in VIT, and then I switched to NERIST.
Absolutely. I think this is very important, starting from as early as before starting the PhD, that A, what you really want to do with that degree, B, what are your long-term goals? As you mentioned, some people stay for spend long time in the postdoc, which say they're like, there is a term called as eternal postdocs. So they just
Mm.
do that because they were not prepared when they were doing PhD that what really they want to do with that degree. And part of these conversations with our researchers, talking and sharing their journey, also help them who are a clueless or are confused. Because it's not that if you have not done PhD or if you quit research at some point of time in academia or in industry, that doesn't mean that you are a less of a researcher. It is the priorities which does change during the time. As you mentioned, at some point you were like, okay, I want to stay in here, I want to do my postdoc in Europe. And then because you were also clear about it that you want to move back to India, and then you start looking for opportunities in there. Now, the question comes, after moving back to India, how easy or challenging was that to again make your own niche in there with all the training you got in Europe?
Okay, it's a bit tricky. Okay, the professionally speaking, there are some bottlenecks, of course. For instance, in India, there are a lot of bureaucratic bottleneck, meaning if you are applying for a research project, it's not so straightforward like in, I guess, in Europe and in US also. Um, Moreover, the as I said, in in the Europe, I was kind of accustomed with the flat hierarchy, and now again when students are sharing me, I'm kind of feeling a bit irritated. Yeah, and I said, see, I mean, when I'm asking you that you can choose a MSc project topic, I mean that you have full freedom. Tell me what you are thinking. Indian students, on one hand, they feel a bit shy, I don't know, or intimidated maybe, that should they speak their mind, and yes, you should speak your mind. So that's one thing. Okay, second thing is, roughly it is otherwise it is a bit easy. Maybe when you are having a job, when you are when you are working somewhere, the social life, it's much more involving, and maybe there are a lot of drawbacks in India, I agree. But again, I am living outside my house, I mean my parental house, since 2010, roughly speaking. I mean, 2010, I went for my bachelor's. It was like monthly leave for 1 day, and then it was a semester leave, and then it was a yearly leave. So I'm on and off. And that has taught me that wherever you are going, you are essentially living locally. In the sense, in Germany, you can create a local India around you. In Norway, you can create a local India around you. In Itanagar, where I am currently now, I can create my own India locally around me. So there will be always people who you are really getting well with. Find those people, and that's your hub. What is happening outside, yes, there are a lot of noise, there are a lot of ruckus. You have to get with them, and this close support system is going to help you at each level.
So true. And I think having this amount of exposure you got in Europe, and now you are passing it on to the next generation of the students. Training is so important, like mentoring, how the way you got mentoring and now you are mentoring the next generation is also one of the part which researchers, scientists, professors, as like either in academia or in industry, what we do is giving it back to the society, everything, whatever we have learned. Now, coming to the edge of the conversation, based on your experience, if you can point 3 points for the guidance plus success of PhD students or postdocs converting into faculty positions.
Okay, so number one, uh, well, I would, should I, do I have to like narrow it down for PhD students or postdocs?
As you wish, yes.
Okay, because the first quality that I would look for is clarity for yourself. Meaning,
Mhm.
what you like, what you don't like, what you can do, what you can do. You should have the utmost clarity about these things about yourselves,
Nice.
irrespective of the profession, irrespective of academia, irrespective of PhD versus postdoc or industry, these things. This clarity is the epitome of the world. Second thing, definition of happiness. Please get your definition of happiness clarified, because this is going to be the guiding star of your lifelong journey. Okay, these two, and there is a third thing, punctuality.
Yes.
Be punctual, irrespective of wherever you are, irrespective of the job that you are doing, be punctual. So these are the three general things for everyone. Now, for PhD and postdoc, okay, you have to be a huge collection of hope. Essentially,
Yes.
you are Pandora's box, in the
Mhm.
sense, as I said, throughout PhD, postdoc, and even faculty position application, there will be innumerable rejection. Okay, you should learn how to handle those rejections and still have a very happy life with your set of defined happiness. Okay, so that's why you have to define happiness at the very beginning. All right, second thing is that talk with people in the sense, because nowadays research definitely, uh, well, probably for 99% people this is true, research cannot be done in a bubble. You have to
Yes.
talk with people, you have to communicate your ideas, so that people should know that there exists a person. All right, because, for instance, I don't know, I mean, when Sir Isaac Newton lived, how many people knew that there was an Isaac Newton? After
Mhm.
a lot of time, when his works were distributed via translation and so on and so forth, people came to know, okay, there was this guy named Newton who
Okay.
discovered gravity. So you have to speak with people, you have to communicate your ideas, you have to listen to people so that their ideas can be communicated to you. So you have to have good communication skill, you have to have a lot of hope, uh, and work life balance, in the
Nice
sense,
one.
with your prescribed set definition of happiness, you have to manage with your punctuality the amount of work to be done with what other things you want from life.
Mhm.
Okay, so that you have to manage, and then read, study, explore, talk with people, talk with students, push the students. So these are all. Above all, there is one thing called luck. And if luck favors, success will be yours 100%. If luck does not favor, success will be yours, not probably 100%, probably X%, X less than 100.
Nice. Very good. The way you summed it up. To all the audience, I can say that if you want to write to Dr. Nilabja, you can write to him. If you want STEM for Society to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, write to us. We are there to help you. If research happens to be the key of your happiness, as Dr. Nilabja says, we are there to support you. And with this, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Nilabja, for sharing this great conversation with the audiences.
Thank you. It was very good pleasure for me. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. It was our pleasure. To all the audience, I can say that stay tuned for another episode of Researcher Celebrity.